Now, I've spoken for 25 minutes, and I haven't mentioned the Fabricator yet. So, here he is. Technology has been good to the Fabricator. They've been using 3D for quite a while, long before the engineers were, long before anybody knew how to spell BIM. And so they've had plenty of time to leverage the efficiencies that they can squeak out of technology, from material tracking through their shop, barcoding, standards. The technology's made that easy. Preferred connection types, all these kinds of things that they have worked so hard, really prior to anybody else working in BIM, to make their shops as efficient as they can. So the challenge for us was to try to figure out how we can leverage that efficiency. This is not, what we're trying to do here is not leave the Fabricator out in the cold and just cram something down their throat and say, look, I really just need you to make this. I'm tired of the RFIs, I'm tired of the change orders, just make this. This is not what we're trying to do here, because there's a lot of efficiency here that would get wasted if we did that. And their expertise. They know things about material procurement, erection issues, fabrication issues, all kinds of stuff that would be left on the table if they weren't included in this process. There are other things like software and equipment limitations, internal control systems that they've been working on for 15, 20 years while they've been working with this 3D stuff while, most design firms have been doing it for the last 10 years or whatever. So trying to take something that we think is appropriate and force it down somebody's throat and it just not work at all, that puts the fabricators at a disadvantage. The one word, this is, as I mentioned earlier at the very beginning, this has been a somewhat controversial topic, engineers doing shop drawings. And probably the biggest reason is control. And so I've been thinking about this for the last year, and I divided it into two really simple categories. I don't know if this is right, but from where I sit, this seems like this made the most sense. You got internal control, and you got external control. Internal being in the shop, external being the rest of the world. So the internal control is pretty easy to manage. They've been doing that with their whatever software they use in-house, and that can actually be fairly easily incorporated into this fabrication package to maintain their internal control. The external is all the things that nobody can really, that they don't really have any control over. And I wrote a few things down here: faster schedules and poor construction documents. I'm sure everybody in here, whether you're an engineer or detailer, fabricator, or whatever, has been squeezed by the economy and the pressure we all have on our fees. And unfortunately, I'll say most, at the end of the day, it's about making a profit, and if you're going to ask me to do something for a lower fee, then you're going to get lower services. And I think that results in poor construction documents, which doesn't help anybody. Early and late drawings with little information. So a fabricator gets involved, we've got significant design changes. The schedules are going faster. They're being asked to give GMP pricing, right? That's been the new thing on DD drawings, where there's no details, there's very little secondary member information in there, and being asked to give GMP type pricing. And then they have to order steel, they do an ABM, and here comes the revision just before CDs go out, and everything's changed. And they're having to manage that, what I've ordered versus what I need versus what I can't keep, and all that kind of stuff. We feel like, at least on the project I'm going to show you here, that when done correctly, that a lot of those issues go away, and the need for external control is significantly reduced. On some of them it was zero, but we'll just leave it at significantly reduced. So what we discovered, how do we overcome this? So what we discovered, as an engineer, I'll be honest, I knew nothing about detailing other than checking shop drawings. But what in talking about all this, what we discovered was that keeping it in 3D as long as possible was the way to go. That committing to paper is when the headache starts. So if it takes an effort of 1x to put it on a piece of paper, and all these programs have automated, give me all the details, but they all need to be cleaned up, they all need to have information added, they all need to be looked at. And once you commit that to paper and send it out, all the AISC certification requires that you have provenance on all these drawings and all the changes. So the change, when the drawings come back and we think we're doing everybody a favor by marking up our paper drawings and sending them back, that now takes 3 times the effort. And the detailer's required, he's got to sit there and debate. The model has to be right because he's sharing that with the fabricator. So he's got to decide, well, I go fix the model. Is it easier to draw all this information on the detail I already have, or is it easier to scrap the detail, re-export it, remake the changes I did the last time, and then reissue it? And those things take time. However, when you're in 3D, making global changes to a model is pretty easy as long as it's still electronic and not on paper. So what we came up with was keep it in 3D as long as possible until the fabricator's selected, and then we can incorporate their shop efficiencies and preferences kind of after the fact, after they're given their notice to proceed. And then we commit to 2D and send the drawings out. So we stay in longer 3D to incorporate the fabricator's needs. Member connection preferences can be changed easily. Sequencing can be incorporated. Shop standards, sheet sizes, formats, sheet numberings, piece marks, all those kinds of things can be done. Takeoffs can be made at any time. And then whatever software or equipment limitations they may have with their in-house software or their equipment in their shop floor can be incorporated. So now we've affected the entire process from design all the way through to fabrication. So I can't think of an owner that wouldn't want to get into a building 8 weeks quicker. 8 weeks sooner revenue generation, less time he's got financing, less time he's paying the contractor for general terms and conditions. Design build or design bid build. Obviously what I've explained here sounds really good for design build. Everybody's on board early. You can kind of take these things in little steps as you're going along, getting the fabricator's preferences incorporated earlier, fabricators available earlier to offer input when it helps the most. Everybody gets gradually familiar with the project and is able to offer some input, and in that case the schedule can really be compressed shorter than 5 or 6 weeks after the fabricator is selected, or in this case it would be after CDs go out, because a lot of the incorporating the fabricator's stuff after he's selected has already been done early. But not all, particularly in our world, in the projects we work on, most of the owners aren't interested in design build, they want to do design bid build. But because we're staying in 3D, we've enabled this process to still allow for shorter fabrication package delivery and incorporate the fabricator's preferences and keep everybody happy in the design bid build, and still make the owner feel good because he bid the steel package. So you still have the 2D construction documents available. We can do BIM takeoffs. We can share the detailer's model at this point that is connected but may not be with the preferences that fabricator wants, which we change after the fact. Paper drawings, paper shop drawings, if you will, are not used for estimating. They don't exist. So everything is still in 3D. And once the fabricator is selected, we immediately meet with them. I think on the 3 that I'm going to show you here, the 2 were kind of design bid build, the other was design build. But for the 2 that were design bid build, we met with them within a week and had their drawings back to them and the fabrication package within 4 weeks after that.